Que pasa YouTube, 6fthax here, have for you guys today another Wi-Fi battle, and as you can see from the length of this battle, it's quite a long one. This is probably the longest battle I've had on Wi-Fi, and I had this match on my stream and it was a really good match. I definitely think you guys are going to enjoy it. So if you do enjoy the lengthy battle, make sure to hammer the like button down below, guys. Thank you for the support. Thank you for answering the question of the day. Of course, answered today's question of the day, which was on your screen. So going into this battle, the biggest threat I saw on my opponent's team was going to be that Tapu Koko. Also, Zygarde could be a problem, but I'm mostly worried about Tapu Koko because I don't exactly have a safe switch into it. So I'm going to be leading off with my Lycanroc midday form, or midnight form. Why did I say midday? Is it midday or midnight? I'm pretty sure it's midnight, as he actually ends up leading off with his Mega Scizor. And this is the second time I've been in this scenario where my opponent leads off Mega Scizor and I lead off with my Lycanroc. So instead of going for the Fire Fang, expecting him to go for the Bullet Punch, he actually ends up going for the U-turn on now into a Zygarde. Now, I didn't really realize how much of a threat Zygarde was actually going to be, just because I completely forgot about the fact that these tend to carry the substitute coil set, and then when I look down at my team, I don't exactly have a good switch into Zygarde, especially if he does have a dragon type move. So expecting him to want to go for either the substitute or the 1000 arrows, I'm going to hard switch directly into my Garchomp, and I'm going to be forced to pretty much go straight for the Dragon Claw, as that is the only move I can hit this Zygarde with that will hit it for super effective damage and break the substitute, as he then goes for the 1000 arrows, getting off a decent little bit of damage on me. Even if he had gone for the coil there, I'm pretty sure Dragon Claw still would have been able to 2 or 3 hit KO him before he would have been able to knock me out. So because I am locked into Dragon Claw and I do outspeed Zygarde, I'm going to pull a double switch here into my Scizor, predicting him to either want to bring in the Tapu Koko or most likely bring in his Tapu Fini on the off chance that I was in choice, because I could easily switch up moves and go for the Earthquake, predicting him to bring in the Tapu Koko. But because he did bring in Tapu Fini, I don't have to worry about him potentially burning me, because I have seen some Tapu Finis with Scald, so I will be able to safely Mega Evolve here. And unfortunately, he misses the Nature's Madness, and this does play a little role later in this battle, as you guys are going to see. So I can safely go for the U-turn on now into my Tapu Lele. Now, most Tapu Leles that you see are Choice Scarfed, but because I already have Scarfed Garchomp, this is actually Choice Specs Tapu Lele, which honestly, man, really disappointed me in this battle, because as you see here, I'm gonna go for the Psychic thinking that I'm about to just drop this Tapu Fini, but no, it just barely lives on like 5% HP and is able to defog away my rocks, which really sucks, because if you guys remember his team, there's not really too much that my Lycanroc midnight form can get up rocks against, because everything outspeeds me. So I'm going to go for the Psychic here again, as he ends up switching into his Magearna, which, judging from that damage, he is definitely Assault Vested. Maybe because I'm timid specs and not modest specs, I'm disappointed by the damage, because if I was modest specs, obviously I would have been able to get rid of that Tapu Fini, thus allowing my Stealth Rocks to be up for this match, especially for this Tapu Koko, because as I said, this thing is a humongous problem, and I really don't want to stay in to take a potential Thunderbolt, or if for some reason he could have the Hidden Power Fire. So I make a hard switch directly into my Delmise, which is Assault Vested, which still takes like 35% from that Thunderbolt, and he gets the paralysis with the T-Bolt, which was a little bit annoying, because this can come into play later in the match if I get fully paralyzed from something that I could potentially knock out or try to chip off damage on. Then that could come back to hurt me later in this battle. So here he's going to switch into his Tapu Fini, probably most likely just as Death Fodder to allow him to get a free switch into something else, or maybe he thought I would switch out myself. Either way though, I'm able to knock out the Tapu Fini because I didn't get paralyzed, and my Delmise should still be able to live 2 Thunderbolts from that Tapu Koko later on. So I will be able to switch out here as he pulls out the Swords Dance, with the Scizor. Now, I'm honestly not too worried about this because unless he gets up to +4 and has the brutal swing, then there's really nothing for me to worry about. And the reason why I didn't stay in and go for the U-turn was on the off chance that he was faster than me and wanted to go for the brutal swing, because I want to keep my Scizor at as much HP as possible, and by hard switching directly into my Toxapex, unless he gets up to +4, then I'm not worried about him going for the brutal swing. So he does end up going for the bullet punch there. As I'm able to chew the hit, I will be able to take this opportunity to go for the toxic spikes on the off chance that he did want to try an SD and then potentially pull out the brutal swing. Then again, there was a possibility that I could have burned him with the Scald if he did try and Sword Dance again. So he does hard switch directly into the Zygarde, and getting up that layer of T-Spikes is going to be absolutely crucial in this match, because it means that I can poison the Tapu Koko, I can poison the Mamoswine, and most importantly of all, I can poison this Zygarde and prevent him from being able to substitute Coil over and over again on my switch-ins to Garchomp, which again, Garchomp is really my only answer to that Zygarde. So here, he's actually going to hard switch directly into his Tapu Koko. I'm guessing he did this just on the off chance that, again, I wasn't choiced, or that if I did break his sub as he went for 1,000 arrows, I then could have pulled a double switch, predicting him to bring in the Tapu Koko. So him hard switching directly into Tapu Koko, getting rid of his substitute, wasn't entirely too bad of a play there. So much like earlier, my best answer to this Tapu Koko is, of course, my Dhelmise, and my Magearna is going to be taking way too much damage from Thunderbolt in electric terrain. So he does end up Volt switching into his own Magearna, and at this point I have no switch-ins to this. There's also the possibility that he's gonna go for the Volt switch. So I decide to just fodder off my Dhelmise. No, wait, I don't have a Magearna. What am I talking about? I think I meant to say my Tapu Lele. That's the second best answer I have to that Tapu Koko. So I will be able to bring in my Garchomp here and safely go for the Earthquake, because there's no real reason for me to go for the Dragon Claw, obviously, because it doesn't affect Magearna, and he does have the Tapu Koko, as he ends up switching directly into the Zygarde. Thanks to the fact I was able to get up that layer of T-Spikes, it is going to put him in range of where another Earthquake will be able to knock him out, as he pulls out the Extreme Speed, which means he didn't have a Dragon Stab move, because he most likely did have Coil as his final move. So after that E-Speed damage and the Rough Skin recoil to him, I am 100% going to be able to knock him out with the Earthquake, as in comes the Mamoswine. Of course, Mamoswine can easily go for an Ice Shard, and if it's Focus Sashed, then it can just safely go for an Icicle Crash, and I'm going to be forced to switch out here, as I do end up bringing in my Lycanroc, which is going to drop to whatever move he wants to go for. And like I mentioned, there's really nothing else, or really nothing at all, that my Lycanroc can get up Stealth Rocks on against. So it was the best thing I had to sack off, as I can now get a free switch into my Mega Scizor. I'm very positive that two Earthquakes shouldn't be able to knock me out, but I was sadly mistaken, because this Earthquake does just a little bit over half of my remaining HP, and this is where him missing that Nature's Madness came into play, because I would have been forced to Bullet Punch or forced to go for the Roost instead of Swords Dancing, and by Swords Dancing I put myself in a pretty good scenario to where I can easily knock something out, whether it be this Mamoswine, or if he does want to switch out like he does here, I'm going to be able to put down this giant ass threat of a Pokemon that is Tapu Koko, and that is one less thing that I now have to worry about. As he brings in his own Mega Scizor, I'm sitting at +2, so I'm gonna take this chance to go for the Roost, and this is where I find out that I'm actually faster than him. So earlier I could have definitely gone for the U-turn instead of hard switching out, but it's fine because I'm still in a pretty okay scenario. I'm very positive that he doesn't have the Brutal Swing at this point, which means he can't really do anything to my Toxapex. So I'm going to take this chance to go for the U-turn. In hindsight, I could have definitely stayed in and set up to +4 and then Bullet Punched most likely, because even at +6, non-Brutal Swing Mega Scizor cannot do absolutely anything to Toxapex. Plus, I do have the Haze, so it doesn't even matter if he got up to +6. I resist both of his stabs, and like I said, I'm very, very positive that he doesn't have the brutal swing at this point. So he ends up going for the roost as I reveal to have the haze. He now knows that there's absolutely nothing that this Scizor can do to me, so he's actually going to hard switch out here, not wanting to take the recoil damage from Rough Skin, which isn't a bad play at all on his part, and I will be able to go for the Scald. And I absolutely love Rocky Helmet on Toxapex. Like, honestly, I think Rocky Helmet should be the preferred item to run as opposed to Black Sludge, just because Toxapex is already so bulky, it's got Recover, and it's got Regenerator. Like, being able to chip down physically offensive mons with Rocky Helmet just comes in handy so much. So here I'm going to switch into my Tapu Lele pretty much as death fodder, thinking that he would just go for the Earthquake, but he actually ends up going for the Stealth Rocks. I'm really not too sure why. At this point, Rocks don't really help him out that much, plus Tapu Lele can still put in some work to his team, and this is where I really wished that I had Hidden Power Fire on this Tapu Lele and that I was modest, because I would have been able to get off more damage on this Magearna before he's going to knock me out with whatever move he wanted to go for. As I get put down by the Flash Cannon, this now gives me a free switch into my Garchomp, which is going to be able to easily outspeed this Magearna, and I can go for either the Fire Blast or I can go for the Earthquake. And ultimately I went for the Earthquake because I didn't want to risk him potentially staying in, but in hindsight I definitely should have gone for the Fire Blast, just because the Earthquake was so obvious, and I would have been able to easily 2-hit KO this Mega Scizor. And then if he tried to switch into Magearna, I might have actually been able to 2-hit KO that too with Fire Blast. So even though I didn't make an incorrect play in going for the Earthquake, it's just the better play would have been to go for the Fire Blast, because that would have sped up this match and saved us a couple turns. So I'm gonna switch back into my Toxapex, which again is my best answer to this Mega Scizor, and I'm in a position of where I can honestly just safely go for the Scald. I lose absolutely zero in going for the Scald. As he switches into his Magearna, I do get lucky and I get the burn here, but I most likely would have been able to burn him later in the match anyways, so I don't really think getting the first turn burn here is entirely that crucial. As I switch into my Scizor, expecting him to go for the Volt Switch, he does end up going for it. Obviously, you would have to be insane to switch in a Garchomp onto a Magearna, because he could have easily gone for the Flash Cannon or Floral Cannon, predicting that. So he does Volt Switch into a Scizor, which, as you know, I am faster than him, and I make another dumb play here, and instead of going for the Roost, I go straight for the U-turn. I think I went for the U-turn just to kind of speed up this match a little bit, because I didn't want to drag it out any longer than it already was. So I U-turned directly into my Toxapex, as he's going to try and go for the Sword Dance. This honestly does not even matter, because what I can do is spam Scald until eventually I'm able to burn the Scizor and hopefully get a free switch into my Garchomp, which, as long as this Scizor doesn't get up to +4 while he's burned, there's no way that a Bullet Punch should be able to knock out my Garchomp after another turn of Stealth Rock switch-ins, and in return, Fire Blast can potentially knock out Mega Scizor from 70% HP depending on his EV spread. So I do Scald the incoming Magearna again, and if I didn't get the burn earlier, could have got the burn here. So I'm going to switch out again, predicting him to go for the Volt Switch, as I do end up bringing in my Mega Scizor. He goes for the Floral Cannon here, probably expecting me to bring in my Garchomp, predicting him to Volt Switch, but again, you'd have to be insane to make that play, so I wasn't going to do that. And it turns out that I'm actually faster than this Magearna, so because he did get the -2 from Floral Cannon, I knew I could live any other hit that he wanted to go for, as long as it wasn't Hidden Power Fire, which is why I go for the Roost here. And if I would have known I was faster than him, then I definitely should have just gone for the Bullet Punch to knock him out, because then I would have just been able to Roost up against his Scizor and then just brought back in my Toxapex and eventually burned him. And actually what I could have also done was set up the +6 with my own Scizor against his Scizor if he wanted to set up to +6 himself, and eventually I most likely would have beat him 1v1 because he was burned and he's going to be taking that extra residual damage from the burn. So he does end up going for the Sword Dance here, as I'm going to go for the U-turn, on right back out to my Toxapex, because much like I've said before, this is my best answer to this Scizor at this point, and I do of course have the haze as you saw earlier, so he's gonna take this chance to go for the roost. And I didn't want to bring in my Garchomp obviously because he is at +2. I need to try and get the burn on this Mega Scizor if I want to be able to not make this battle last for like an extra 30 minutes. So he's going to end up going for the U-turn just on out into his Magearna, which obviously at this point Magearna is going to be knocked out by the Scald. And if I didn't burn him the first 2 times, then third time would have been the charm here probably. And I could have got the burn. Even though he might have not been in range to where he would have gotten knocked out, eventually the same outcome would have happened where it would have been my last 3 Mons against his Mega Scizor. So he is going to try an SD here. That's really the only thing that he can do. So I am going to go for the Scald, just trying to fish for that burn, and I can play around this Mega Scizor to where I can put him in a position where he's forced to go for the roost. Then that way I can get a free switch into my Garchomp, and as I mentioned earlier, if he is around 70% HP, even if he is fully Spadef invested, Fire Blast coming from naive natured Garchomp will definitely be able to knock him out. So this is where I should have switched into my Garchomp, because with him being burned and having no boost from Swords Dance, after Rough Skin, I should be able to still 2-KO him with the Fire Blast, and he wouldn't be able to 2-KO me because he was burned. But I ended up going for the Scald like an idiot, not wanting to make the aggressive switch, because still, even if I was on Showdown, like I would still do this right here, just wait until I can get in a better position to make the switch into my Garchomp. But at this point he knew the match was basically over, so he is going to end up running, and that is going to be the victory in my favor. So that was, I think, almost a 50 turn battle if I'm not mistaken. So hopefully you guys did enjoy that lengthy battle, and I don't know if you guys sat through the whole thing, but let me know what your longest battle has been on Wi-Fi. That is the question of the day, guys. If you did enjoy, make sure to hammer the like button down below. Thank you all for the support, and with that being said, I will see you all tomorrow. So thank you all for watching, guys. Later, everybody.
Cause my brain and heart are both tied in a knot, and this hinders me from crying a lot. This causing me to show no emotion, but when I said I cared, I wasn't joking. But I guess it's too late for me to become broken. For now, I'm living with no more pain, tears of hoping. I'm just coasting. Yeah, I said I'm coasting. No more pain, tears, and hoping. For real.